Welcome, my lovely lilies, to the Shakawan Totob, the nation of the four winds. Please sit by the fire, for today we have a brand new entry to the nation. Phone call. So, there I was, just sitting at my couch. My parents were out and my sisters were both at work, both working late shifts. My favorite show was on, SpongeBob SquarePants. It was the episode called Hall Monitor. That is the episode where SpongeBob becomes Hall Monitor, and he and Patrick try to fight crime. I was at the Maniac sequence where Patrick sees SpongeBob under the light, and he keeps saying, "Wee-oo! Wee-oo!" repeatedly. My phone rang suddenly, and I picked it up. Heavy breathing was coming through the other end. "Hello?" I asked. The breathing kept going on, as if the man had been chased several miles. "Who is this?" I asked, rather scared now. Suddenly, a voice came out. All it said was, "Here." I hung up and immediately started playing my SpongeBob episode again. The scene was creeping me out, because I thought of the phone call, and that it could be a maniac. I dismissed this idea, because it was probably one of my sisters. Except, it was mouth breathing, and my sisters were always against me doing mouth breathing. The thought of it being some kind of deranged maniac suddenly hit my head again. So I picked up the phone and started to dial 911. Just as I was going to press the 1, the phone rang, and it made my heart skip. I answered even though I tried to resist. Heavy breathing again. "Listen, you prankster, can you just stop? Because you have no idea how mad I am now." "Here," the voice said. It was rather raspy and sort of sounded like a parcel tongue from Harry Potter. I was confused. However, because I didn't know what the person meant by here, I hung up again. The burning feeling in my head came as I felt I was being watched. I saw movement in the complex parking lot. A dark figure was standing there under the lamppost. I turned back to my TV, but when I turned back, the figure started walking towards my duplex. As the figure stepped into the light of my porch, I realized it was just my neighbor. She came up and rang the doorbell. I answered. She told me, "Just come tell me if you have any problems tonight, okay, sweetie?" I nodded, but then I stopped her. I explained that I had been getting strange phone calls, and that the person just kept saying, "Here." She said I should just shake it off and dismiss it as some kind of practical joke, because people make tons of prank calls every day. She had a worried look when she said it, as if she thought that it wasn't that, and it could be something serious. "Good night," I told her and shut the door. Immediately as I turned around, the phone rang. This person knew exactly when to call me. I picked it up, even though I was really upset at this guy. This time, though, he said something that made my blood run cold. "Dead." I couldn't move. I wasn't thinking it was a morbid joke. I thought this was serious. I locked the door, closed all the blinds, and turned on every light in the house. I lifted the phone up to my ear again, and the voice said something far more disturbing. "I'm here. You're dead." It seemed he had combined his two words and made them into a sentence. I hung up. That was it. I knew what he meant now. He was in the house, and he was going to kill me. I picked up the phone and dialed super fast 911. 911, what's your emergency? "I think there's a man in the house ready to kill me." "What's your address, ma'am?" 282 17th Street, 5th Avenue. Please hurry." "Okay, ma'am, units are dispatched." I immediately saw something out of the corner of my eye. I turned fully, but it was just my shadow. I was lucky in this place, because the police were just a couple of minutes away. The phone rang again. A tear streamed down my face as I pressed the talk button. "Behind." The voice said. I turned around. He was there. Star 69. Back in the 1980s, there was a phone prank that my sisters and I used to do when we were kids. It was known around the neighborhood that if you were to dial your own phone number, replace the first 3 digits with 555, and then press the receiver down 3 times, the phone would ring back on its own. It had to be one of those touch-tone phones, which were common back then. We did the prank whenever we were bored, waiting to see our mother or father reach for the phone, only to hear nobody on the other end. This sent us into a huge laugh, until one afternoon our mother yelled at us to stop messing with the phone. I remember this vividly, because after she answered the phone, I saw her face drain of color as she looked over at my sisters and me. Her reaction upon slamming the phone down scared us, and we promised never to play with the phone again. We must have done this prank a dozen times by this point. The last time I attempted the phone prank was at a friend's house across the street during a sleepover. I picked up her phone and dialed 555-4127. I clicked the receiver down 3 times before I realized I just put my phone number after the 555 and not my friend's. Before I had a chance to do it over again, the phone rings, and I pick it up before my friend's thinking it was a legit phone call. He answers. "Hello?" I can hear someone screaming back. "What did I tell you? You're dead." My friend started crying and was so terrified and confused that her mother sent us all home. The thought of the phone as a dangerous thing suddenly became real. Later that night, while I'm looking at my friend through the window, I see a man come up behind him. The light shuts off. It may have been his father. I wasn't sure. The next morning, I called across the street and got a busy signal. I walked over and knocked. Nobody came to the door. All of the cars were in the driveway, though. He should still be home. I walked around to the back of the house to see the back door wide open. I can see that they're in the living room, watching TV. I enter the house. A voice is heard softly in the background. "If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and dial again." When I made my way to the living room, I saw my friend and his parents all sitting on the couch, staring through me, with horrible purple expressions on their face, phone cords wrapped tightly around their necks. After all that, they tore the house down. Nobody would ever move in there. I asked my mother years later, looking at an empty lot across the street, about the phone call that made her yell at us that one day, and she told me she could hear a man screaming in a very deep voice about tracing the call next time if this happened again. It sounded like a recording with all that static, but she wasn't sure. I played a game with a stranger from Reddit, and I hope she rots in prison. Would you rather? That's all it was. I played that game when I was a kid. Would you rather have a lifetime supply of Skittles or Starburst? Would you rather have a pet alligator or a pet tiger? Things like that. It was supposed to be fun, harmless. But then I grew up. I turned 22, and I made the mistake of playing the game with a stranger on the internet. No, not a stranger. At least I didn't consider her a stranger at the time. At the time I called her Amelia, Amy for short. We met on Reddit. She was always sharing creepypastas that freaked me out. Real dark stuff. I wish I could write as well as she did. So we started talking. She didn't want to exchange numbers in case of I was some psychotic killer. So we talked over Snapchat. We never sent any photos, just used the chat box. And one day, she asked if I would play Would You Rather, a creepy version. She'd come up with all the questions, taken from a list on Thought Catalog. All I had to do was answer. It was a character study for the novel she was writing, she said. It wouldn't take long, she said. And it didn't. 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers. When she finished, she thanked me and told me she had a lot of work to do, but she promised she'd talk to me when she found the time. I went about my day, went on a jog around the block, went to work, went to the pub with my friends. I had a brief scare where I thought someone slipped a drug into my drink, and then went to bed, like it was any other day. I wake up the next morning and repeat the routine, but instead of being stirred by the alarm on my phone, I woke up to a strong, fruity stench and an unopened message on Snapchat. I threw off the blankets and put my feet on the ground before realizing I wasn't in my apartment. I didn't know where I was. All I could see were brown-stained walls, wooden floors, and a boarded window. There was hardly any furniture, just the bed I had slept on, a fridge on one side of the room, a table covered with thick sheets on the other. Did I only dream about going home the night before? Did someone actually slip me a roofie in my beer? Did someone rape me, kidnap me, hurt me? I unlocked my phone with the intention of calling a friend to pick me up, but for some reason the phone app wouldn't open. Neither would the messages or the mail. The only thing that seemed to work was Snapchat. So I checked my one and only message from Amy. It said, "It's okay, you're with me, you're safe. Now, check the fridge." What the heck? Did she know where I was? Maybe I messaged her the other night to tell her where I was going? Or maybe she finally told me where she lived and I was at her house? That must have been it. For whatever reason, I walked toward the fridge. Call it a gut feeling. One of those instincts that your body can't ignore, no matter how loudly your mind is screaming at you to get out of here. I wrapped my hand around the old-fashioned handle and yanked it open, expecting to see a plate of waffles or pancakes, something to eat. Instead, on the shelf eye level with me was a severed hand, purple and puffy at the wrists. A wedding ring sat on the bloated finger. It looked so real. It must have been some sort of prop, a piece of horror movie memorabilia, but it looked legit. My phone glowed with a new message. Would you rather find a human head or a human hand in your kitchen? Amy had asked me the same question the other day when we played that Would You Rather game. I had picked the hand. When she asked for my explanation, I said that someone would have their hand chopped off and still live, but they couldn't have their head removed without dying. Did she set this up? Another message popped up on my phone. This one said, "There's a snack for you in there too." I let my eyes trail down to the remaining shelves. On the very bottom, there was a bowl covered with tinfoil. I crouched and peeled the covering back, revealing thin strips of meat. It looked like shredded chicken or turkey, some kind of flesh. Wait, wasn't that her second question? Something like, would you rather eat dead flesh of your mother or your father? I remember joking about how, if I was desperate enough to become a cannibal, I might as well eat my dad, because he had more fat on him. It would fill my stomach, and she laughed at that. I bet she was laughing now, watching me admire her handiwork. I wonder how long it took her to set up all these props. She was pretty talented. She should really work at a haunted house, get paid for all that work. I checked Snapchat again to tell her that she got me, that she was so funny and ha ha ha, but this time her name had a purple square next to it instead of blue. Not a message, then a video. I clicked on it, making sure my sound was on, and I heard whimpering, a weak cry muffled by duct tape. It was coming from my mother. She was wiggling on the floor, tied by the wrist and ankles. She was almost nose to nose with my father, sprawled on the ground next to her, with a bullet through his head. The missing hand. Oh my gosh. My parents hated horror movies, barely watched television in general, and I had never mentioned Amy to them, not once. There was no way they'd agree to pull a prank like this. It had to be real, but it couldn't be real. I sprung up, snatched the severed hand, nearly dropped it when the coldness hit my skin, and I tugged on the ring until it came loose. The right inscription was inside. Eternally yours, 88. It was actually my father's ring. Then, this was actually happening. Another message. It's okay. You don't have to devour the whole bowl. You can just ease into this game. Just a few forkfuls will do. In case you didn't put 2 and 2 together, I'll kill your mother if you don't play along. I don't remember taking any time to think through my options, to figure out if I could sneak out of the room before Amy pulled the trigger again. All I remember is sitting on the floor, bowl in my lap, scooping up meat with my fingers, sticking it into my mouth, and swallowing after 2 or 3 chews, coughing when clumps caught in my throat. But I didn't let my mind latch onto the present or look too closely at what I was being forced to eat. I just ate. And I thought, what was the next question? What the heck was going on? I hated Snapchat, hated that I couldn't look back at our conversation to check because our words got deleted right after they were sent. I'd eaten a third of the meat. Then the next message came through. It said, "There's a glass of water in the bottom drawer of the refrigerator. Drink it and take the pill next to it." I didn't remember anything about drugs in our would you rather game. Who knew what it would do? I thought about sticking it into the side of my mouth and pretending to swallow. But if it killed me, maybe she'd let my mother go. Maybe our game would be done. Or maybe it was a painkiller, something to calm me down. Wishful thinking, but I needed to latch onto any hope I could find. So I played along. I swallowed it. Go take the sheet off the table and do your thing. When I walked across the room, I noticed the cameras, 4 of them in each corner of the room. Amy was watching from every angle. After giving her the middle finger, I lifted the sheet off and found a dead woman. The source of the smell that had woke me. Now that I was closer, it was even sweeter. It strangled my stomach. I retched before I even realized what Amy wanted me to do. Little strands of vomit clung to my lips. Then I read her message. Would you rather have sex with a family member or with a dead body? The noise I made sounded inhuman. Anger and disgust blended together. How the heck do you expect me to do that? If she had cameras, I figured she had recording devices too, that she could hear my voice. And I was right. In less than a minute, I had my response. The pill you took should help you. Give it time. Crap, crap, crap! What if I had chosen differently? What if I had chosen the family member? Would they be tied up and thrown in front of me? I didn't want to think about it. Any of this. My mother in ropes, the elderly woman on the table with a knife sticking from her spine, the girl that pretended to be my friend for months before setting up this psychotic plan. I just wanted this to be over. But I had to wait for my medicine to kick in. I used up all the time with tears. I drew my legs up to my chest and bawled into my knees. Thick, wet sobs that I hoped my mother couldn't hear. She was in the room with Amy. But please, God, I hope she doesn't make her watch. I pulled myself together and I did what I had to do. I closed my eyes tight, tight, tight. I don't want to give any more details about this part. I don't want the mental image in your mind or mine. What's the next question? I asked in the air. The sobs were back, but I talked through them. I don't remember it. 3 down, 2 to go. More than halfway done. That was the only consolation. I was almost finished. This nightmare would be memory soon. I was bent over, trying to slow my heart rate and end the tears, when her next message came through. Would you rather cut off your own arm or gouge out your own eye? There was a knife sticking out of the elderly woman. Did she expect me to use that? Did she expect me to cut through bone? Oh, come on, I said. That's impossible, and you know it. This isn't Saw. A few moments passed without a reply. Then a video came through of my mother. From off-screen, Amy rested a blade across my mother's arm and seesawed it until it sliced. My mom screamed. The sound was sharp, even through her gag. The banner across the video said, "At least try. Hit the bone and I'll be happy." So I grabbed the knife handle and wrenched it out of the woman. Flakes of flesh stuck to the blade, but I wiped it on my shirt, and then I placed it against my arm, a few inches above the elbow. After a quick prayer to God, I cut. All I heard was high-pitched ringing and a piercing sound like needles in my ears, warning me to stop. Abort! Abort! It was the type of pain where you suddenly are aware of fragments of your body you never knew existed, of nerves that were buried too deep for you to ever uncover, the type of pain where you're convinced death would taste sweeter. I had the urge to shove the blade through my chest, directly into my heart. But I wouldn't let my mother die. I would do whatever Amy told me to. So I kept moving, back and forth, through the blood and the veins and the tendons, back and forth. I had reached the point where I swore I was going to pass out from blood loss. But Amy's message finally came through. It said, "I'm impressed." My arm was screaming, begging for bandages, but that was only 4. Only one more question. One more. I could do one more. But what the heck was it? Choosing between eating rats or spiders? Being blind or deaf? Killing my brother or my sister? No, I remember what it was. Amy, or whatever that witch's name was, had asked, "Would you rather be drowned in a bathtub or be trapped in a burning building with no way of escaping?" I was terrified of water, so I had chosen the building, and I could already smell the searing wood. April Fool's Day, my personal creepypasta story. April 1st, 2002. Today, brother pulled a mean prank on me, and I asked Mommy why, and she said it was April Fool's Day, and then I got happy. April 2nd, 2002. I drew a pretty picture at school, and Mommy didn't like it much. December 3rd, 2002. I got another beating from Daddy, and I got beat up at school for bringing my stuffed animal, Chloe. December 8th, 2002. I broke a glass and Mommy yelled. April 1st, 2003. I killed everyone who's ever been mean to me. And on the news, they called me a psycho, so I killed them too. April Fools.
Bye.